Damn right Grimace is going to be there.
Welcome to the source.
I always forget that they can hear me during the intro. Like, my mic is on. We got to fix that. Or maybe I could just shut the hell up.
Source. Hey, get the source.
All right. What's up, everybody? Happy Thursday to you all. Hope you had a nice Wednesday. Look, I'm not jumping to any conclusions. Just saying, college football 3-0 this week, and this is coming from the most ice-cold college football bettor on the planet. So maybe the ship is righting. We'll see. 3 college football games on tonight, but we'll get to that in a little bit. We got the WNBA game first. Then we got MLB. Then we got NFL Thursday Night Football. Then we got college football. So we will get there. But first, Chris B. Kappen is coming on. WNBA Finals, correct?
WNBA Finals is here, Kyle. Here we go.
And it's the Liberty's back, but not the Aces. We're looking at Minnesota catching 6. Yeah, and I'm assuming this is game 1, right?
This is game number 1. It is. And for that reason, Kyle, situational spot for me here, man. I think, well, first I feel like this. If you wanted the Liberty, you probably should have got on them when the line first dropped. Like I think the sharp money was on Liberty early because they understand the situational spot here. You got the Minnesota Lynx coming off a huge Game 5 win, potential letdown spot for them, and you got an extremely motivated New York Liberty team that, they wanted the championship last year and felt like they were the better team, and they didn't produce. They've already knocked out their arch nemesis, that is the Las Vegas Aces, that beat them 3-1 on their home floor and celebrated on their home court last year. And now you get a Minnesota team that's beat them 3 out of the 4 times this season. And I think people are like, it's 2 ways you can look at it, right? You got Minnesota that's beaten them 3 out of 4 times. And okay, Minnesota has this team's number. Then you also got to look at it from the Liberty side of things, where the last year they couldn't get over the hump of the Aces and they absolutely smoked them. And that is what seems to be the thing for the Liberty. If they play, if you've beaten them before, they typically are locked in. If you haven't beaten them and they're laying double digits, typically you have. So the way I chose to play the game, Kyle, just to stay off the number, because I didn't play it immediately, was I took the first half full game money line, and you can get the double result. So it's just for the Liberty to be winning at halftime and for the Liberty to be winning full game. I don't think that Minnesota is going to catch them in a flat spot here early in this game. Both teams have been excellent in the first half. I'll give Minnesota their credit, but I think the Liberty come out. I think they come out swinging, super motivated in this game as well. And I looked into a couple of the trends. The one thing that really jumped out to me the most was looking at these teams that are coming off a Game 5 do or die, and they win. They're 0-9 straight up against 0-9 straight up.
Wait, say that trend one more time. Say that trend one more time.
So it's teams who won Game 5, right? So this is like in the NBA, this is Game 7, right?
Right.
So teams that win that do or die game, and then they're dog in the next game. They haven't won any. 0-9 straight up. So I think the longer the game goes on, the more it favors the New York Liberty here in this spot. And the reason why is because Minnesota just won 2 days ago. They had to get on a plane immediately after winning, celebrating, emotional win, and then fly to New York for Minnesota. New York beat Las Vegas last Sunday, right? When we were all watching football. So they've been at home, practicing, resting. So the longer the game goes on, I think that they'll, win. Will they cover the 6? I think so, but I didn't put my money where my mouth is there. Now, as far as the total goes, Kyle, and then I'll shut up and let you guys proceed with football. As far as the total goes, I think it's an over game. Game 1s are typically like fill-out games. We have 2 of the better offenses in the WNBA as well. This total opened, I think, 159 and a half. It's up to 160 and a half, I think is what you have here. And I agree with the money coming in on the over. Both of these teams are 2 of the better three-point shooting teams. Both of these teams have elite playmakers. They like to spread you out, get you in a lot of actions. They both can score all 3 different levels, both excellent free throw shooting teams as well. And I think as the series goes on, we'll see more defense. But if Minnesota legs are shot in the second half because they're coming off a big time game that they just played against the Liberty, makes all the against the Connecticut Sun, makes all the sense that both teams get up and over the total here. So I do like the total up and over, but I played the first half full game.
Yeah, I don't know if I necessarily love that, and this is coming from somebody. No, I don't know if I necessarily love the Liberty. I should say this is coming from someone that doesn't know shit about the WNBA, but knowing that the Liberty just knocked the Aces off, which was the team that beat them last year. Then had a few days off. I don't know. That would point me towards the other side. But again, I don't know shit. I'll go Minnesota +6 if I'm placing a bet. Let's go.
I think a lot of people are, guy. Which I can't. I mean, they beat them 3 out of 4 times in the regular season. I couldn't talk anybody off, wanting to do that as well. I just think Minnesota runs out of gas here, but we'll see how it goes. I don't have my money on the -6 either. So if you could cash and I could cash too. I just played the first half full game because it was -125, and I thought that was pretty good value there.
Got it. All right, Chris. A couple weeks till NBA. We'll talk soon, man.
Absolutely. Best of luck, fellas.
Later. All right, let's talk some baseball. I'll teach Toast how things work on the diamond after my big Dodgers win. I tried to tell him sometimes Toast is stubborn and he doesn't want to listen. It was obvious that it was a Dodger spot last night. I mean, a layup. A layup of a handicap. I mean, come on. Dodger spot all the way last night. I thought it was, baseball 101 there. So here we are. He's so pissed off. All right, so we got Cleveland, Detroit. This is game 4, correct? Detroit up 2-1 in this one?
Correct, yes.
I had said last night that I thought it was a Cleveland spot, not changing my stance on that. In fact, I believe when we recorded last night, it was -120, so maybe moved a few cents towards Cleveland, it looks like.
Yeah,
I'm not changing. I think it's a Cleveland spot, so it's Guardians for me, Prop Beaver.
I'm not going to really argue off of it, but as far as a handicap goes, I definitely see the Cleveland side. I did place a small half unit wager on Detroit at +105 now that I got it at a decent price after last night. I'm just going to go back to what I've been preaching this whole time is that the Cleveland Guardians can't score. And you can't win baseball games if you're not scoring. Out of the 27 innings they've played this series, they've scored in 2 of them. They had 5 runs in the very first inning of the series, and then they had 2 in the 6th. Not to mention, if you keep on going back in Cleveland's history in the playoffs, it's pretty bleak as well as them scoring runs. I mean, I'm sure a lot of us remember that Rays series when neither team was scoring. So, is Reese Olson somebody that I'm trying to run and back especially run to the window and back? Absolutely not. But at the same time, I mean, he's pitched pretty decent. He's also pitched on the road and at home over his last 7 starts. Only 2 starts at home. But he did face this Cleveland team twice this year, 12 total innings, only 7 hits, 5 runs. Not terrible. And I don't even think, and both of those, like I said, both of those were 6 innings each. So he's only going to go 3, maybe 4 innings. He's probably going to see this lineup one time through, and then you're going to see that Detroit bullpen get deployed again. So again, does Cleveland have some advantages? Absolutely. I'm not trying to take anything away from them, but at the same time, they've had those advantages the whole series and they haven't done anything with them. So I'm not really worried about that vaulted Cleveland bullpen, considering the only time that they're special is if Cleveland has a lead. So if that happens, so be it, and we'll get Scooble in Game 5 in Cleveland. But for me, there's no way in hell I can lay juice with a team that literally cannot score right now. So, like I said, small rager on Detroit just for a little fun.
I will say, and obviously Cleveland's gotten shut out twice in a row, so it's kind of hard to argue for the Cleveland Bats. I will say there were a couple sharp hit balls that went directly to Tigers outfielders in Game 3. In Game 2, there was nothing. But what's his name? Naylor hit a sharp one to center, and Jose Ramirez he got under it, but he barreled the shit out of it. If that trajectory was just a little bit down, it was an easy. So they had a couple sharp hit balls in the last game, and they've been shut out twice in a row. At one point the ball is going to bounce the right way for them, and like I said last night, I think 2 runs wins this baseball game for Cleveland.
Maybe.
Someone says, "Oh shit, does Kyle have a Mets World Series ticket?" Yeah, you guys remember on the show, I placed it when they were 0-5. No, actually, they were 0-5, and then they won the 6th. Everyone was making fun of the Mets because they started 0-5, and then they won the 6th game to go 1-5. And I said, "I've seen all I need to see," and bet the Mets World Series. Yes, it was more for a funny tweet than an actual wager, but looking pretty good right now. Just saying, looking pretty nice. All right, so yeah, I like Cleveland in this one. Next up. Yankees, Royals. I think I said on the show last night, I said Yankees -1.5. I haven't bet it. I guess I'll just stick with that. Did you had said you wouldn't even like this game, I believe, last night.
I don't, but I am a little bit of a degenerate. So I did play the over 7.5 for a half a unit play, and then I also played Kansas City on the money line at +130 for just over a half a unit. Again, if Garrett Cole can figure out a way to come out here and shove today, then so be it. They can have my money. I just have a hard time believing that kind of happens. So Kansas City just saw him and put 4 runs up against him. I'm not a big Garrett Cole guy. He had a very good postseason run with Houston. He's pitched well at times with the Yankees, but when they've needed him most, he's kind of crumbled at times, in my opinion. So Michael Wacha coming off of back-to-back mediocre starts, both of those on the road. His previous 3 starts at home against the Giants, Minnesota, and Cleveland, all very good. 5 2/3, 2 runs against San Francisco, 7 innings, no runs against Minnesota, 5 innings, 2 runs against Cleveland. I said this last night, and I still believe this now. This Yankees offense isn't anything to be scared of, especially in October. I don't think that Judge is due. I just think that he's not a big-time performer in October, and until we see that, we have to treat it. We can't treat it any way otherwise. Stanton had a big night. He stole a base. He had a homer. I think he had a double. Again, if Giancarlo Stanton beats me, so be it. Bobby Witt hasn't done anything this series. If Bobby Witt continues to do nothing, again, little things like that, so be it. But again, it's not a huge play for me. It's like a half a unit on the Royals. I like the over 7.5 more.
It's at 8 now. It's at 8 now.
Oh, okay. Still, I would still play the over if you asked me to choose which one I like more, it'd be the over.
Yeah, I mean, Tinker likes the over too. There was a couple of people in the comments that like the over. I had the over in game 3. And that was, I mean, I still had a chance because it was tied. And if the Royals tied at 3-3, there's a good chance that goes into extras and I do win the bet. But by no means did I deserve to win that. That was an under game all the way. And I don't understand why can't these teams score runs? These lineups were so high powered earlier in the season. I don't know what the hell. So the bet I said last night was Yankees -1.5. That would be my pick for the show. But I will
say that part of the reason that I played that over too is that if this is like a game where the Yankees can kind of solidify themselves as being like in the World Series conversation, if they come out and put a 6-7 spot up in Kansas City, take this series, and then they're going to play some lackluster team like Detroit or Cleveland, they set themselves up.
Cleveland will beat the Yankees, bro. Cleveland will beat the Yankees.
Yeah,
Detroit won't.
I'd take Detroit before I take Cleveland to beat.
Nah, the second half of the game, the advantage, the discrepancy between the Cleveland bullpen and the Yankees bullpen, every single 6th inning on of that series, Cleveland's going to have the huge advantage, top to bottom. But
they can't score.
I mean, can the Yankees? Aaron Judge is hitting like 0.96 in the playoffs, dude.
Hey, he got a walk yesterday. Good job, Judgy. Way to contribute. Hell of a job.
How poetic is it that Pete Alonso is coming on in the playoffs, and Aaron Judge is, as a Mets fan, hearing these Yankee fans, all of my friends are Yankees fans, they don't shut the hell up. Seeing Aaron Judge not show up and Big Pete hitting opposite field home runs every other at bat, like who the hell is this guy? Loving it, loving every single second of this. But yeah, Yankees -1.5 for me. But we have 4 football games on tonight, so I don't know. Maybe if S. tries to hype me up into a bet in the Discord or something, maybe I'll join him or something. But as of right now, no, he gets all fired up and he like puts all his emojis in there. I'm like, shit, man, that looks fun. Like, I'll get in. I'll take some of that.
The emojis get you every time, huh?
Yeah, he gets fired up. All right, let's talk some football later, Toast. We doing NFL first, Prop Beaver?
I love you, Scoop.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Thursday night football. Good game, too. A good game with 2 teams that haven't been playing their best football the last couple of weeks. I said, though, in the video I uploaded last night that I'm completely willing to disregard both of last week's games for Seattle and San Francisco. It's a terrible spot. I hate these short weeks. I understand the NFL's a business and is trying to make money, and Thursday Night Football brings in some revenue. I get it. That being said, it doesn't even make sense to play football on 3 days rest. It's crazy. It's just not how the sport works. So I hate it in terms of trying to bet it. It's a lot of unpredictability, a lot of things thrown into a lot of wrenches thrown into the process, I guess is the phrase I was looking for. Prop Beaver was going to get the poll up. You guys know how I feel, so I'm going to let Prop Beaver go first, but let him get the poll up. You guys know I'm on the Seahawks and I'm on the under, and I'll talk about it in just a second. Prop Beaver's got the poll up. You need to get your notes ready. Are you ready to roll?
I'm ready to roll.
All right, cool. So prop Beaver's going to go first. I didn't even see any of your bets. Do you have props in this one? I didn't even see any.
Yeah, I do. I took Kenneth Walker over 19.5 yards in this one. You said you have the Seahawks in the under, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I took Kenneth Walker over 19.5 receiving yards. I think it's up to about 20.5 now on most books. I think it's a bit of a popular one today. I know that turned some people off. I've kind of gotten past that as a prop better. I don't really care at this point. I really like this play in this one. He has seen a massive increase in his role as a receiver with the Seattle Seahawks with his new OC, Ryan Grubbs. Last year, he was seeing just 2.5 targets per game. This season through 3 games, 5.3 targets per game. And that's impressive because the first game I was sitting there, 3 targets against the Denver Broncos. That makes sense. You got Patrick Surtain and Riley Moss on the outside. That game against the Detroit Lions, that's a defense that has allowed, I believe, the fewest yards per game and targets to the running back position. The dude had 5 receptions in that game, absolutely dominated in that one. He's now averaging 33 receiving yards, 4.3 receptions per game over in 2 or 3 games, averaging 5.3 targets per game with just 3 targets per game. He's over his last 9 to 12 games. And his receptions line in this game is at 3.5. His receptions line is at 2.5, heavily juiced over with 3+ receptions. He's over his last 9 to 10 games. So we've seen in the past that when he's when he's getting those looks, he's very efficient with them. And the 49ers have been a cash cow for opposing running back receiving overs. We've seen all 5 opposing starting running backs cash their receiving over against them. The running back position against the 49ers through the air through 5 games, they're averaging 42 receiving yards per game on 9.2 yards per reception. That is 5th and 4th highest in the NFL. And then I guess the icing on the cake for us here is that even when Walker wasn't heavily involved in the pass game for the Seahawks in the past, he cleared the mark against them. The last 2 regular season matchups, 4+ receptions, 32+ receiving yards in each of those. So, yeah, I think Kenneth Walker keeps it going through the air here. They keep saying they want to get him involved now. I think they are going to try and get him involved a lot more on the ground in this one, but you never know how it goes. I didn't want to risk them. I know the 49ers also think they're going to get him a lot more involved on the ground in this one, so I think they kind of look for that. So I just want to take it on the air. Didn't want to combine the rush and receiving yards here.
All right. So I like what you said, by the way. I like that. Kenneth Walker over 19.5 receiving yards. Because I actually think Geno Smith's going to have trouble throwing the ball downfield, which is what he wants to do. So I could see some checkdowns. I like that.
Ward also has phenomenal history.
Well, he might not play though. He's listed as questionable. He did.
What was his practice history this week? I mean, I could check it out.
Didn't practice Monday. Light practice Tuesday, Wednesday.
I mean, if you're getting the limited in, you're usually good to go.
Yeah, but Thursdays are tricky sometimes. Sometimes
it is tricky, but divisional game, Travarius Ward and DK got beef like that. I mean.
Yeah,
and Travarius is very good at locking down DK. That's what I was just about to allude to. So, I mean, I was considering taking a DK under, but what it is that DK's in a new offense here. Shane Waldron, not the biggest fan of Shane Waldron, so he may have limited him almost in the past in this one, so that's why I'm holding off of that. But, yeah, so I kind of agree there where my boy Geno may be a bit limited passing to those outside perimeter receivers in this one.
Yeah, I don't like the matchup for Geno Smith, but almost everything else about this matchup I like for Seattle. At least I like it enough where they shouldn't be catching 3.5 points at home in a divisional game. So I know you got Brock Purdy's history against Seattle. He's played extremely well against the Seahawks, and I'm not taking that away from him, but we do have to mention this is a new era in Seahawks football. Mike Macdonald is coaching this defense now. So who cares? We're talking about a new head coach, a new defensive coach. He's a defensive mastermind, Mike Macdonald. This is a brand new Seahawks defense. It's completely different. So I kind of don't care too much that Brock Purdy has good history against Seattle. It doesn't really move the needle for me. Matchup-wise, this isn't great for Brock Purdy. I mean, the Seahawks run a decent amount of man coverage. Brock Purdy's been pretty awful. He actually is completing less than 50% of his passes against man coverage so far this year. Seahawks also run a lot of single high safety looks, a lot of cover one. Brock Purdy, not great against those types of looks. The Seahawks have obviously struggled a little bit against the run, but don't look now. They're actually coming back a little bit, sitting about average run defense numbers, maybe slightly above average. And the 49ers, obviously it's Kyle Shanahan, takes after his dad. They run a lot of zone blocking run schemes. They're zone blocking all the way. 3rd most in the NFL. Seattle's actually top 10 in the NFL defending zone blocking run schemes. It's the gap concepts they struggle with. They're back at bottom 5 in the NFL. 49ers don't really do that. So it's not really a good matchup for Brock Purdy. Not that I think the numbers will correct themselves in terms of Brock Purdy's passing. I'm not saying like, oh, we can't trust Brock Purdy anymore. That's not what I'm saying at all. I don't like this matchup. I think Mike Macdonald has plenty of tools to give him problems here. Keep in mind, Mike Macdonald put Brock Purdy in a coffin last year. No touchdowns, 4 interceptions. That was maybe his worst game of his career was against Mike Macdonald's defense last year with the Ravens. I'm not expecting no touchdowns, 4 interceptions, but I wouldn't be surprised if Brock Purdy has a real shaky game throwing the football, and I think Seattle's able to limit the run as well. I don't like this matchup for the 49ers offense. And then on the other side of the ball, I mentioned how I don't like the matchup for Geno Smith. Yeah, that hasn't changed from when I said it last night. I don't think he's going to be able to throw the ball downfield like he likes to. Like Prop Beaver said, DK Metcalf, not the best history against the 49ers. Or is it Ward specifically?
Well, I mean, Javarius Ward's been on the Niners for a good
No, I know,
amount
but
of time
I'm saying, like, do they always put him on DK?
Yeah, Javarius Ward usually follows guys. So,
okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, so, but what I do think will happen, and I know this is crazy because Kenneth Walker running the ball has some pretty awful history against the 49ers. I think in his 3 regular season games against the 49ers, he averages like 26 rushing yards a game or something. But I expect the Seahawks to run the football in this game, and I think it's going to work. They've actually been surprisingly efficient when they have handed the ball off to Kenneth Walker this year. In the games Kenneth Walker played, they're averaging like 6.2 yards per carry. Might be a little deceiving, but they've been able to run the ball when Kenneth Walker is on the field, and I like the timing of it. It's coming off the Giants game where they just abandoned that shit. What did they give, 7 carries to their RBs in that game? Was it 7?
I mean, it was almost like the Ravens playoff game last year. I mean,
yeah.
they just did not run the ball at all. There was 0 attempt to. Whatsoever.
0 attempt to. I'm pretty sure they had 11 rushing attempts as a team, and 4 of them were Geno Smith.
Yeah, there were 4 scrambles and then 7 designed runs to the running backs.
Right. So they literally handed the ball off 7 times. Now, so after that performance where they only handed the ball off 7 times, and by the way, you know, NFL Twitter, Seahawks fans, like, run the fucking ball. Like, they're going off. Yeah. They're buzzing. Why didn't we run the ball, right? Now they're matched up against the 49ers on a short week who, I think this 49ers run defense is not bouncing back like we thought it would. We thought getting rid of Steve Wilkes would kind of fix that. They might be a bottom 10 run defense this year, honestly.
Well, it doesn't help that, like, Javon Hargrave now again injured. What is it? Dre Greenlaw, he tore his Achilles last year. We saw in the Super Bowl. Who did they bring in?
Flanagan that guy Flanagan Fowles is out too.
Yeah, Flanagan Fowles is out. Who, I mean, I think he's kind of like
Devondre Campbell also sucks.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Devondre Campbell sucks. So
we're saying that sarcastically because Andy's sitting next to us and he loves the Pack.
I mean, I'm kind of also not saying that sarcastically. He's also not that good. So yeah, it's just like when Devondre Campbell's really not great, and then you got like the fall off from Dre Greenlaw to Devondre Campbell's massive, and then you got Flanagan Fowles, who's a replacement level players essentially. Yeah, there's a massive fall off there with the injury to Hargrave. So yeah, you're starting to feel the effects of that defense. So yeah, I think that Kenneth Walker is going to have to establish himself here. So yeah, I do agree with your point there.
I expect a somewhat conservative offensive game plan from Seattle. Run the football, make it a point, run the clock, which also is why I like the under. And I'm not saying they're going to run the ball all over San Francisco, but I think they will be successful running the ball to a point where there's no way I can lay 3.5 points on the road. Let's really look at this. When's the last time we saw the 49ers play a good football game? And when I say good, I mean good by 49ers standards because they're being priced like laying 3.5 on the road to one of the better teams in the NFC. They're being priced like they're still the 49ers. When's the last time we saw them look like the 49ers?
It was week 1.
Week 1 against the Jets. What have they done since then to justify this price? They continue to price the 49ers like they're the 49ers. They lost to Minnesota, lost to the Rams, lost to the Cardinals. They did beat up on New England, but even the second half of that game was a little weird. So, yeah, the 49ers haven't shown me enough. I'm on the Seahawks, and I'm on the under because I like the Seahawks to make it a point to run the ball. I also think San Francisco might run the ball a little bit as well because Mike Macdonald, like I said earlier, gave Brock Purdy so many problems last year. So I think the 49ers might be coming into this game like, guys, we can win this game if we run the ball also. I think they might be thinking the same thing. So that's why I'm also on the under.
Okay. And then I got an underdog for this game. Should we just do it right here, right now?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So for the underdog for this game, we're gonna do some Kenneth Walker here. The receiving yards there got bumped to 23.5. I think that's a bit too much now. That's like, what, 4.5 from the opening line? So I decided to go fantasy points instead. I think there's a good chance he gets in the red zone. All I keep seeing is them wanting to get him going on the ground. So F it. I'll also incorporate the rushing into as well. And then obviously I like him to get involved through the air. And then also I put in Debo as well. We got to get a second guy involved here as well on underdog. And Debo Samuel just owns the Seahawks. He's cashed us now in 7 straight. On top of that, Tariq Woolen is out in this one. So yeah, that would be my 2 plays for this one. If you do not have an underdog and you are a new customer, you can add a third leg to this one. That would be Brock Purdy over a half total yard. You can sign up in any of these eligible states in yellow, and you can sign up using our code BETBET. You get a deposit match bonus up to $1,000. Yes, $1,000.
It's 50%. It's a 50% match.
50%?
Yeah, so they have to deposit $2,000 to get $1,000. It's a 50% match.
I was off by a bit.
So yes, Mark, what are you talking about? Mark says safety check on Kyle's mental state. Bro, Grimace is in the NLCS. I'm having a good week here. Made some money on baseball. Making some. Well, actually, I didn't bet those 2 college football games, but I had the picks right on YouTube, which is good for my mental state. Let's check out your mental state, Mark.
Oh, all right.
No, Mark's our guy.
Oh, okay.
Mark's a good guy. All right. Oh yeah, that's it. So let's go to college football.
Did you invite the Lord?
Yeah.
Okay.
I told him 4:15, so that's 3 minutes from now. All right, so we got 3 games tonight. We're also going to talk about 2 or 3, I think 3 or 4 extras after if you want to hang around and talk about some Saturday games. Wow, okay. Thank you, Ronald. UTEP since 2022, home dogs where the total is 49 or greater are 20-5 to the under. Wait, home dogs. Oh, when the home's under. Okay. Oh, yep, Brad's here.
Okay, word.
All right. It sounds clear to me.
Yeah,
All
Jimmy.
right. Yeah. All right. So, college football. We got 3 games tonight. Then we're going to talk about 3 or 4 more after a couple of the big ones for Saturday. First up, Coastal James Madison. This is the only one I didn't bet. Wow. Is it really down to 8? Oh, wow. So that it was at 10 briefly. When I did the video last night, it was 9.5. Maybe some money coming in on the Coastal side. That's the side I said in my video. I said Coastal plus 9.5 or Coastal team total over, which I believe was at 22.5 when I recorded the video. I'll look up. I'll let these guys go first. Who, if any of you guys like to go on this one?
This is the only one I have.
I'll let him go.
It's the only one you have.
Yeah, take it away. Take it away.
Yeah, I'm going James Madison here. Even with that bad Louisiana Monroe loss, they were 16.5-point favorites and lost outright there. But this James Madison team is better than I expected to start the year. I thought they were going to be worse than last year. They are, but I mean, not as much as I thought they would. And Coastal Carolina is really struggling to hang with teams. They're 4-1, but it hasn't looked pretty. They're allowing a ton of points, and though you saw the Monroe game, they did put up 70 against North Carolina. Coastal stats look okay, but they have issues getting off the field. Now with James Madison, their offense should be able to get through their secondary. Barnett's completed 60% of the completions. He has 12 touchdowns, 1 pick, and their starting running backs are all averaging over 5 yards a carry. Plus, James Madison's 36th in third down conversions. Coastal's 105th in their opponent's third down conversion rate, and there just seems to always be giving up crucial plays. And I watched that Temple game. Temple had opportunities all game against Coastal. They barely pulled that one out. And really, their ground game is a lot better than Vasco throwing the ball. So the good thing about James Madison's defense is they're really solid defensively stopping the run, which is something Coastal's going to do a lot. I think this game is going to be a lot lower scoring than people think. And I just think James Madison can match Coastal's offense and a better defense. And The biggest reason you should listen to me is I had New Mexico State yesterday, and just for a couple of bounces here and there, I would have definitely
Bad beat.
covered that one.
It's tough.
Bad beat.
Just a bad beat.
What was the final score of that? 56-7.
Yeah, it was not the best.
Just missed
Close.
it.
It was close.
What about Fillmore?
Fillmore. Oh, it's Fillmore today. I didn't see it. I'm gonna be on the opposite side. I had Coastal a few weeks ago against Virginia, and I won that one. And I like this team a lot. I think I bet them twice, won them twice. Vasco's had really good performances outside of that Temple game, and that road game against Temple, that's a really weird spot. Other than that, he's thrown for 13 yards per attempt, 14, 9. Like, he's been throwing the ball over the field. And JMU hasn't seen a quarterback besides one time, and it really wasn't even a quarterback. It was a guy they were unprepared for at UNC, and he threw for 10 yards per attempt. I mean, I know that game was different because North Carolina had to throw the ball a ton in that game because they were down by so much, but they threw all over this James Madison team. Other than that, they've seen Charlotte, Gardner-Webb, Ball State, and Louisiana Monroe. They haven't seen quarterback as the level of Vasco, and he's throwing the ball over the place. I think they're going to get a lot done through the air, and I just don't think JMU's going to be able to keep up. JMU, besides a couple of games, also really isn't running the ball as well as I expect them to. They're running it fine, but not great. I just think there's going to be a lot of back and forth shootout, and I don't want to take. It was 9.5 when I bet it, so it's now 8, so it's going down significantly. But yeah, I like Coastal here.
So I mean, if I had to pick a side, I would lean towards with Fillmore there on Coastal. But honestly, I think if you ask me, Kyle, give me one bet in this game that can hit. I don't know if you have a graphic for this one, AJ, because I didn't actually bet it. But as I'm thinking about it, as I'm listening to these guys talk, I think this is a good bet. Coastal team total over. Let me get you an updated line on that. I think it was 22.5 last night when I was recording that video. Let me see if it's moved at all. Coastal team total. 24.5? Oh, you're killing me. 24. All right, put it up. What? It crossed over 24? Like, what an asshole move. All right, well, I didn't realize it was all the way up to 24.5, but still, I think what Andy said about James Madison's pass defense is legitimate. I mean, I don't think this pass defense is any good. Look, they look good in 4 of their games against Gardner-Webb, Ball State. Ball State has all kinds of quarterback. Their quarterback decided to play safety before the season started. like they have all kinds of quarterback situations there at Ball State. Louisiana Monroe, okay. Charlotte, these are the games where they look good against the pass. In the North Carolina game, yeah, everyone saw they won 70-50. That kid Criswell, who has really been struggling to throw the ball, threw for like 500 yards on him. 9.9 yards per attempt or something. So I don't think this James Madison pass defense is any good. And Vasco, don't look now. Coastal opened up the season running the football. Last couple games, we're seeing them let Vasco open it up a little bit. Maybe starting to open the playbook and give him more of the Grayson McCall treatment here at Coastal Carolina. He's throwing the ball more. He's making some big plays through the air. He played in this game last year against James Madison. Now, James Madison beat the shit out of him, but he was very efficient throwing the ball. He was like 21 of 29, 260 yards. So he threw on this James Madison defense last year, which was much better than this year's James Madison's defense. So in my opinion, my most confident angle is I think Coastal Carolina can score points on James Madison. Now, on the other side of the ball, man, trying to figure out this James Madison offense is giving me a headache. They lit North Carolina up for 70 and then were stifled by Louisiana Monroe. I mean, Louisiana Monroe, by the way, way better than any of us expected. They're having a great season, but they're not comparable to North Carolina in terms of talent. They put 70 on North Carolina, and I think they were held to 19 against Louisiana Monroe. And it's not just the final score. I mean, the yards per play were down. Efficiency numbers are down. They look terrible against Louisiana Monroe. So I'm not going to even try to figure out that James Madison offense. They could put 60 points up. They could be held to 14. I'm not trying to figure it out. I do think Coastal can score, though. Brad?
Yeah. Spread and total were pretty difficult for me to come to a kind of a conclusion here. Right? Like James Madison probably underperformed in that Louisiana Monroe game. They had 400 yards of total offense. 1-5 on 4th down and 7 of 16 on 3rd down. One thing I saw, offensive line not holding up enough, allowing too much pressure in on the quarterback. If I didn't make that statement, I would easily be on Alonzo Barnett over, I believe his number's 54 and a half rushing yards. If you just like look at the design run numbers that he's getting design yards, it's just glaring massive chunk plays, 34, 26, 76, 19, 98 in total yards. I think that's a pretty good look, but I'm probably just going to pass here. I see like the problem is I can't even lean JMU just because of, I mean, when you're inviting pressure in, you like, it doesn't matter how well your offense is clicking, you put a lot of weight on the shoulder of your quarterback. I guess I'll lean Coastal plus the 9.5. It's a lot of points.
Yeah, I lean that way as well. Lean the team total over. And I just looked. I didn't even realize Barnett was running like that. He's got some impressive looking rushing game logs there too. So
I was saying, what's funny is normally when I see a situation like that, I would just take like I would water it down, make him. I think the number was like 45. I would take him at 45 and then parlay it with the money line. But I don't even trust JMU enough to feel like that's a good bet to give out, even if it's like closer to plus money.
Right. I feel like it's so difficult to make a prediction. Kevin McIver in the comments says that was a bad game against ULM. They're going to put up 63 tonight. Can't even argue with that. Maybe. I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if they score 14, and I wouldn't be surprised if they score 70. That's just way too big of a scale here for me to try to place a bet on that side. So, all right, let's move on to the next game. And I do have bets on these last two. Oh, we're doing UTEP first? Damn. We're going to get the comments all pissed off first. Okay, so yes, the rumors are true. I do have a bet on UTEP money line, plus 810. Do I think they're gonna win?
You can't quit them.
Yeah. It's like almost a little bit embarrassing that I keep backing UTEP. It's like I'm in a battered relationship with UTEP here. I can't help what I saw with McConnell last year. He was making plays, and we know this UTEP offense is capable of scoring points with McConnell at quarterback. That being said, like, I get it. It looked really bad last week. They got their asses beat by Sam Houston State, but that was his first start. For whatever reason, Scotty Walden named the other kid, the quarterback. I can't think of his name. So that was actually McConnell's first start. In the second half, he was able to get up and down the field a couple times. This Western Kentucky defense is not very good. They're not a defensive program. This is every single year under Tyson Helton. They're going to score a bunch of points. They're going to give up a bunch of points. We already know that's what Western Kentucky's going to be. I could probably tell you that's what they're going to be in 2027 right now because that's just what they are under Tyson Helton. I think McConnell can move the ball up and down the field on this Western Kentucky defense. And then, look, as far as UTEP making stops, I'm not going to sit here and try to tell you that UTEP's defense will be fine here on the road at WKU. I will say the biggest weakness of UTEP's defense by far is stopping the run, and Western Kentucky doesn't really run the ball like that. This is a pass-first offense. So if there is a strength of UTEP's defense, it's weird putting the word strength and defense in the same sentence with UTEP, but if there is a strength, it's stopping the pass. We've seen your boy Velkamp make some interceptions. Maybe we see a mistake or two. I think UTEP can keep it interesting. Look, I know no one's going to tell me on this. I'll be on my own little minor island. I don't care. UTEP up, Miners.
I agree with Kyle. Yeah, these are Andy's darlings, Western Kentucky. So I don't want to make them mad. Listen. They really should have closed that game out against Boston College when Castellanos was out. But I'm riding the Miners. Pause. But yeah, I'm riding the Miners. Yeah, if there's a 20-point discrepancy between these two, I don't really think so. I understand taking UTEP in any situation is probably crazy. But hey, all four of their meetings were close before this one. I don't want to be the guy that says I think UTEP will win because I think they'll get it done. But I think Cade McConnell is going to have a nice game here. I understand UTEP's offense is anemic. It's kind of broken, and their run game's kind of atrocious too. But Western Kentucky does give up 25.2 points a game. McConnell, only 53% last week. But you see how many drops UTEP had too? It wasn't all his fault. UTEP had like 5 drops in that game. They're going to improve. UTEP plays at a fast pace. They can cause some big plays. They actually had big plays in that Sam Houston game. Plus, Western Kentucky's defense is bottom 20 in the country in EPA per play. UTEP needs to win. I mean, I'm not saying that's going to happen in any means, but 19.5 is a lot for a Conference USA matchup. So, yeah, give me the Miners.
He goes, I'm riding the Miners.
Yeah, it didn't sound good right when I said it.
That's one where it comes out, you're like, all right, Brad, Andy, who would like to go first?
I'll go. This is an absolutely funny, gross game, right? Like, all the points you made were really good. Western Kentucky glaringly stink at third and fourth down success too. Like almost bottom in the country, can't get off the field. Offense pretty solid, right? They like to throw the ball. 36 in rush rate over expected means they throw more than they pass by a good margin. I wanted to lean towards the over. I think the total was like 56. Yeah, 56. Both of these teams just give up a ton of points, right? If you look at net points per drive, 113th is UTEP. Net points per drive on defense is Western Kentucky at 105th. I did look at Velkamp's passing yards. I think the number moved a little bit, but I do think he sees success through the air. It's 272.5. It's like 10 yards over. But I still think he sees a ton of success. They throw the ball a lot, and they're going against a really bad pass defense. And what's funny is like they haven't played against a team that really is going to say, we're going to throw the ball more than we are going to run the ball. This is their first opportunity. They're still allowing close to like 245 pass yards per game. So if you can get like a 260, maybe the 270 number on Velkamp's passing yards, I think you should take over in that. That'd probably be my best suggestion. I think the 56, like you want to go like I want to indicate like advocate for the over here, but like regardless of how bad their defense is or how much they want to throw the ball, they just haven't been that electric offense, right? And so it's hard for me to kind of advocate for that, but I do think they have the opportunities to throw the ball down the field here. Whether that means they're completing drives or not, the passing yard should be there, and their defense is not good enough where they're just going to be in run script at the end of the game all game.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything you just said. Now, when someone asked, why is this guy obsessed with UTEP? Look, so very briefly, they brought in Scotty Walden to coach this year. He's from Austin P. He built up a really impressive FCS program there, and he brought a lot of his pieces with them last year. So they brought in an established coaching staff. And the thing is, when you bring in an FCS coach to coach the FBS, if he got the Illinois job, yeah, I'd be okay, Austin P pieces, who cares, in the Big Ten. But the jump from Austin P in the FCS to Conference USA isn't necessarily as huge as you would think. I thought it would translate nicely, and I still have faith that UTEP will look like a formidable Conference USA program, maybe in the second half of the season. So far, that's looked like a miserably incorrect take. So I'm giving it one more shot. UTEP. This is only the second time I've actually bet UTEP. So it's not like I've been betting them and losing with them. I just said before the season I liked them, and that has looked really wrong. So, Andy? Oh, yeah, we already know he loves this freaking team.
I'm going to take the over.
No,
yeah.
You're not going to lay with your boys?
Yeah, I can't lay 19.5. I really like this Western Kentucky team. I still think they can win this conference. I haven't been taken off that from anybody's play at this point. They're now a top 25 passing offense according to effective pass. That's what happens when you play your best quarterback. Took them a while to get to that point, but they did. Caden Velkamp's really good. I mean, he's at the level. He's going to be at the level of the previous quarterbacks they had there, Zappy, Austin Reed. Like, he's that level of good. He had nearly a perfect passer rating against Middle Tennessee. Still been solid in their games after that. I think he's going to be really good today. UTEP's not going to be able to stop him. But on the other side, I don't think Western Kentucky's going to be able to stop them. I mean, their pass defense is 129th in yards per attempt, 105th in effective pass. And like he just said, this quarterback for UTEP, Cade McConnell, he's good. Like, he is a very good quarterback, and I expect them to be much better with him at quarterback. And Scoop also mentioned the drops. The drops were an issue in their last game. Those won't happen every week, so I think they'll be better from that standpoint. So I just think this will be a constant shootout back and forth. Still think Western Kentucky could wind up winning by 2 touchdowns, but they're not winning by 3 touchdowns in my opinion. So I'll just take the over.
Over 56.5. I would lean towards the over as well. Yeah. So let's move on to the third and final game for tonight, and then we'll get into some of the big games for Saturday. Is anyone getting down on the Blue Raiders?
I'm with you. I bet it already.
I mean, I don't understand the line. I think Louisiana Tech's defensive numbers are a bunch of bullshit, if I'm being honest. If you look, so what I mean by that is if you look at Louisiana Tech's defensive numbers this year, you might be like, oh, this team has a great defense. But if you know Sonny Cumbie, just know that you can't trust that defense. So, yeah, you look at Louisiana Tech's numbers on the year, and you might think that this defense is good. They're like 22nd in the country in yards per play allowed or something. And they did play Tulsa. They did play NC State, so it's not like they haven't played anybody. But Tulsa, they don't have much of an offense this year. And the NC State game against Louisiana Tech, it was either right before or right after the Clemson game in a weird spot. And that was the game Grayson McCall got hurt early, and they just threw C.J. Bailey in there, who has never played at the quarterback position. I mean, he saw the field on a couple. They gave him a couple like spot running plays and stuff. That was the first time he was thrown in there at the quarterback position. So they got NC State in a very weirdly fortunate spot to play NC State's offense. Not to mention NC State offense looks pretty terrible this year. So basically what I'm saying is I don't care what the defensive numbers say for Louisiana Tech. I know Sonny Cumbie on a personal well, I shouldn't say on a personal level, I don't. But this man has cost me some money over the years trying to back Sonny Cumbie. And I think the Cinderella that is Louisiana Tech's defense turns back into a pumpkin in this one. Vadiato, and by the way, what I think about Middle Tennessee is almost the exact opposite. If you look at Middle Tennessee's numbers, you might be like, oh, this offense sucks. They can't do anything. Yo, this is a Conference USA program that opened up the season at Ole Miss, Western Kentucky, who is one of the stronger teams in the conference. Then they play Duke, an ACC defense, and then on the road at Memphis. This team's been through the gauntlet as far as the schedule they've seen so far. We know this kid Vadiato can sling it. Probably going to lead the conference in passing. Well, that or fail camp now that he got the starting job. They're going to drop back to pass 40, 45 times. And Vadiato, he makes mistakes, but he also puts up points. So, like I said, even though Louisiana Tech's defensive numbers in the year look good, I think Middle Tennessee is going to cook them and put up a lot of points here. So I'm on Middle Tennessee. I'm on Middle Tennessee money line, and I'm on the over. I put all that. It's like 0.25 units, 0.25 units, and a half unit. So like I have it all spread around. I have 3 bets on the game, but none of them are big at all. I think Middle Tennessee wins, and I think they score points. So you take that information, do with it what you will. That's how I bet it. Middle Tennessee plus 4.5. Middle Tennessee money line over 49. It's down to 48.5. So the market moved against me on that front. I don't care. That's what I bet in this one.
I'll go. I'm with him in lockstep on that. I 100% not buying this Louisiana Tech defense. I get the numbers look good, but then when you look at the effective pass and the effective rush, like they're in the mid 100 teens. Like they're clearly not as good as their numbers show. And like you just said about Middle Tennessee, they've played a really, really tough schedule. Mississippi, Memphis, the other one, Western Kentucky. Those are good. The teams that La Tech has played, NC State is already on their backup quarterback, and that was the game where he came in. Sorry. And then they also played Tulsa. They're 134th in OFEI. Doesn't get lower than that. There's only 134 teams. They're dead last. So they clearly, their defense hasn't seen anybody. Now they're going to see Vadiato, who's been through this conference already once. He played well in this game last year. I expect him to play well this year. So I have Middle Tennessee money line, and I have their team total over 21.5, 22.5. I think they score in the 30s in this one. So Middle Tennessee.
We are a Blue Raider network tonight. Anyone else?
Yeah, I lean Middle Tennessee as well. And I'm going to piggyback off what you said earlier about Louisiana Tech's defense, right? Like you look at numbers. This is like one of those use cases where what's more important to you as a stat guy? Do you care about success or do you care about EPA, right? Like EPA margin is actually pretty important because that's actually just indicating the amount of points or points versus expectation versus success is like how successful you are in certain situations like first down, second down, third down, fourth down, right? Great success numbers on defense. 7th in defensive success rate overall, 15th and 15th in drop back and the rush, right? But then when you go to EPA margin, it's absolutely horrible, right? Like it's complete Jekyll and Hyde. They're 120, they're 115th in EPA margin on defense, both 115th and 120 and 112th on the rush and drop back here. Those are it's just way to look at the numbers and say like, sure, like on first and second downs, they might have a ton of success, but when there's situations where the defense should get off the field or not allow points, it's not happening. So they're basically playing worse than their baseline, or they're playing over their baseline. So at some point it corrects to the mean, which makes me like Middle Tennessee just from a number standpoint. If you just look at those metrics, hopefully that made sense.
No. That's exactly how I'm looking at it as well. I completely agree. Scoop, are we sweeping?
No. So yeah.
Well, wait, hold on. You're laying 4.5 with Sonny Cumbie. Look into the camera and say that.
I'm laying 4.5 and not putting any personal money on this game. So I would take the 4.5. I mean, I would lay the 4.5. But have we talked about Middle Tennessee this year? There's a good reason for that. I mean, Louisiana Tech isn't much better. So I think the difference is LA Tech at least keeping games close. Middle Tennessee, they're 127th in opponent points per game, 129th in opponent yards per game. I mean, Louisiana Tech staying in games. They're 51st in opponent points per game, 20th in opponent yards per game. I don't really care which of these three quarterbacks start for Tech. They had Turner, Baker, Bullock all start games. I don't need Bullock make it to start here again. Who gives a shit?
It's not Baker. Baker broke his collarbone.
Yeah,
it's definitely
it's
not
not Baker.
Definitely not him.
I mean, Bullock's a redshirt freshman. They may give him the best chance to win here, but difference here, I think, is going to be on defense. Middle Tennessee, personally, hasn't shown me anything on that side of the ball that makes me believe they can compete. So, I mean, no, Louisiana Tech's offense isn't good. They're 114th in points per game. But I think the defensive side of the ball is a pretty big disparity. This should be a low-scoring game, so maybe I would lean the under. This was 51. Now it keeps going down. It's 48.5 here. But I like Louisiana Tech here to win more than – I think they'll win by more than a touchdown, but I'm not personally putting money on this. So.
Wrong. Blue Raiders win. All right, let's move on to some actual premier college football matchups here. What's up first? Ole Miss, LSU.
Oh yeah.
So I did a video on this one, and I'll be very brief because you guys probably already know my thoughts on it. Very simply, the game we saw last year between these two teams was 55-49. Ole Miss won in what was one of the most explosive football games of the entire season. And looking at how these two teams match up this year, pretty sure we should see about the same shit. I mean, these two offenses are explosive, and I know Jaden Daniels is obviously in the NFL, but the LSU is still top 5 passing attack in most advanced metrics. So, I mean, this LSU passing attack is still dangerous as hell. They also have that freshman running back that looks pretty good. What's his name, Andy? The LSU running back that burst on, they're talking about him.
I know his name, so I can't think of it.
I can't remember his name, but they also have a running back who's kind of an emerging star there at LSU. So that LSU offense
Durham.
is more. What's his name?
Durham. Caden Durham.
Yeah, Durham. So that LSU offense is more rounded than you think. And the thing is, you might look at this game and be like, okay, two elite offenses. Ole Miss can play defense, LSU can't. So how do you not take Ole Miss, right? Can't argue with that logic. But the thing is with Ole Miss defense in these big SEC games, and people who watch SEC football are probably going to hear this and be like, yep, exactly. That Ole Miss defense looks absolutely elite until they see Alabama, until they see LSU, and then doesn't look very good. Exhibit A was this game last year when they gave up 49 to LSU. So I expect this game to go touchdown for touchdown. My pick would be the over. I haven't bet it yet. I kind of wanted to take Ole Miss as well, but laying 3.5 when I expect LSU to score on most possessions. My favorite pick, over 62.5. It's at. Well, I'll let you know if I end up betting it. As of right now, that's just a lean.
Anyone? Go ahead with this one. I'm excited about this game. Should be fun. If you like, my thing is if you like Ole Miss in this game, you wait. Wait to bet Ole Miss. Trey Harris probably going to be announced out. I tried to do some digging with some people close to the program. Doesn't sound promising that he's going to play. And I think Trey Harris, from a betting perspective of a just recreational bettor, he probably will move the line maybe a point. I don't think he's worth an entire point, but just if you like Ole Miss, then you can absolutely probably get a better price closer towards kickoff. I do like Ole Miss as well. I actually want to advocate, and this I don't do this often, but if you like quarterback props, you should just take both quarterbacks over. Garrett Nussmeier set at 300.5. Jackson Dart at 290.5. To be fully transparent on NBC Sports, my play was Jackson Dart. He is absolutely my favorite play in that. If you look at this team, they're about like 25th in the country in rush rate over expected, which means they're just throwing the ball a ton. Even when they're having a ton of success on the ground, they're still throwing the ball more. When Trey Harris went down last week, you saw guys like Juice Wells step up. You saw Jordan Watkins step up. It showed that Lane Kiffin was like, we're still going to throw the ball because it's next man up mentality. That's why you go out in the portal and you go get a guy like Juice Wells, right? You're like, hey, Juice Wells, you are going to be our guy. The defense of LSU, I think, is going to start to show in these games, losing guy like Harold Perkins, to kind of anchor that linebacker core there. They were already not great, 118th in success rate against the pass there. I think this is going to be a classic game where both teams want to throw the ball, and they're going to have a ton of success doing it. At the end of the day, I think Ole Miss gets it done, even without Trey Harris in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with everything you said. So I'm leaning towards the over, but basically the same reasons for what you just said. Scoop, Fillmore?
Yeah, kind of two weird teams. They look great most of the season. They have some weird times, but LSU's offense, I think, is great. I mean, Nussmeier has actually been awesome. I don't know. I mean, the second consecutive road game for Ole Miss, and this time in Death Valley. I lean LSU, but like, how many times can you get a field goal over a field goal at LSU? I mean, the LSU passing game is going to be the best passing game Ole Miss has faced all season, and yet, I mean, Ole Miss's defensive front is great, but LSU's pass protection is one of the best in the country. So they're 7th in sacks allowed, they're 4th in pressures allowed, and I know Ole Miss leads the nation in 24 sacks, but LSU's only given up 2. So, yeah, I think this is going to be an over as well. I agree with you. Especially because of what I just said, one of the best parts of Ole Miss's defense is going to be taken away. Do I like Brian Kelly? No, I don't, but they do have an extra week to prepare for this game. This is actually the second week in a row that Ole Miss is coming off, playing the team that's coming off a bye. Yeah, so, I mean, like Andy just said, and plus, Caden Durham, I mean, it looks like he's going to be an awesome player for LSU. I know Ole Miss's run defense is great, but, you know, LSU is a different kind of animal. So, and just to reiterate the over, LSU has given up 236 passing yards a game, which is the most in the SEC. So, yeah, I see this being a back and forth kind of game. I like the over, but I would lean LSU as well.
Yeah, that UCLA offense looked absolutely dreadful until they played LSU. They started making plays. So, yeah, the LSU defense, not much to say on it. What about Fillmore?
Yeah, I'm going to be on Ole Miss, but I'm also with you guys on the over. I think both teams, I mean, it's without even saying, these two teams match up, you expect the over to hit. You can kind of see Ole Miss's defense hasn't quite improved, maybe like it looks. The stats might tell you it has, but you can kind of see inklings of the idea that it's not, right? Hank Bachmeier and Wake Forest, they were actually throwing the ball. They threw for 265 in that game, and then they started throwing some incompletions late in the game, so the yards per attempt went down to 6.3. They threw for 265 in that game, so they were throwing on this Ole Miss defense. And then Brock Vandegrift, who came into that game coming off the Georgia game where he had like 70 yards, and we didn't expect anything from him. He threw for 8.7 yards per attempt. They beat him, right? So clearly, this defense probably hasn't improved as much as I thought it was. And we know LSU's defense hasn't improved at all. Miller Moss hasn't done anything since week 1. He had 10.5 yards per attempt in that game. So everybody's going to be throwing the ball in this game. And I think that just favors Ole Miss. I don't think Ole Miss is even going to attempt to run the ball in their 2 SEC games, 3.3 yards per carry. Don't expect them to even try running the ball. Just think they're going to be able to shoot out them and win this one by a touchdown. Maybe even in overtime, too.
All right, let's move on to the next game. Perhaps the biggest college football game of the weekend, even though there's several big ones, but I would imagine Buckeyes-Ducks takes the cake here. Even though the one we're about to talk about, Penn State, USC, in 2 more games from now, that sparked some people are hating my pick in that game. I might double down on it. Usually when the YouTube comments hate it, like explicitly.
I love your pick in that game.
Usually my hit rate increases. So anyway, Buckeyes on the road in Eugene. You guys know I bet this one. I took the 3.5 with Oregon. This is kind of like maybe a reflection of how I view college football. There's a lot of there's a lot of overreactions in any sport. That's not unique to college football, but college football is unique in a sense that there's such a small sample size that it just happens to the extreme. So before this season, right, Oregon and Ohio State, regarded as 2 of the best teams in the country, probably still are. Based on what we've seen so far, you would think, Ohio State's 10 points better than Oregon. When in reality, every single college football season at the end, when we're looking at who the remaining teams are in the playoff, or we look back at the season and thought, who are the best teams this year? Who are the top 5 teams? Games like this determine that. Like, if, for example, if Oregon wins this game against Ohio State, which I think they very well can, in a month, no one's going to be talking about Idaho. No one's going to care. It doesn't matter. You won. These are the games that determine the identity of your football team in college football. When we're having the college football playoff discussion in December or whatever the hell, November, all that down the line, we're not going to be talking about Idaho. So it's games like this where we figure out who Oregon is. So the way I look at this game is we're about to find out who both of these teams are. Clearly, they're two of the best teams in college football. And yes, based on what we've seen, Ohio State does look a little bit stronger, but we're going to lay over a field goal on the road in Eugene here. No, I think this is a coin flip game with two of the best teams in the country, and I'm getting the home team at more than a field goal. This was a no-brainer for me. Oregon plus 3.5. I think they may win.
I'll go. I'll take this. Look ahead line was a lot shorter, so if you liked Ohio State, you should have probably played it a long time ago. I actually don't do this very often, but I just took the juice. I took Ohio State money line around minus 155 here.
I don't think I've ever seen you do something like that.
Never, very rarely. Because I just have a really big window of an Ohio State victory here. First, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this, and just very tongue-in-cheek. It's not how I analyze games, but Dan Lanning has yet to win a big game, right? He has yet to be the guy who won a big game. We know Ryan Day's had the success of winning big games. So we'll get that out of the way, because that is not the basis of my analysis in this game here. I do believe this is probably the best Ohio State team they've had in quite some time. And it's not necessarily because they bring in Will Howard, right? Like bringing in Will Howard compared to having a guy like CJ Stroud is obviously not the same passing prowess. But bringing in Chip Kelly with having a 3-man rushing attack, it elevates their offense to a whole new level. Having Travion Henderson, having Quinshon Judkins, having Will Howard have the ability to run the ball and have success that Chip Kelly has had everywhere he's gone at developing run schemes, it makes his team a little bit better. Defensively, it's been a work in progress for about 3 years, right? They bring in Jim Knowles and they're saying, Jim Knowles, we need to be tougher. We need to be a better, more physical defense. And slowly they've done that. Now the transfer portal and NIL has allowed them to go get puzzle pieces that they need to bolster that, make them a little bit stronger, make them a little bit more physical. How does Ohio State win this game on the road, right? Oregon running, I think it's like 11-game win streak at home. Ohio State 10-1 in their last 11 on the road. Obviously, that loss to Michigan. Sorry, Ohio State fans. How do they win this game? I think it's rushing success. If there's a weakness to this Oregon team, it's their run defense. The pass defense 11th in the country, and the rush defense 43rd. I think that this will give them the opportunity to drive the ball down the field, and you can't stack the box against them. Why? Because the second you do, you throw to either Emeka Egbuka or you throw it to a guy like Jeremiah Smith, one of the super freshmen here. The reason I'm not laying the points here is because there is a real possibility that this game comes down to that final drive and somebody is kicking that field goal. And if it's Ohio State, it could be a 3-point game. It could be a 2-point game or make it a 1-point victory. I'm not going to lay the points, and I'm not confident enough in Oregon being able to effectively stop the run where I want to take the points with Oregon. So I took the money line. I'll give you another player prop. I'll be quick on it. Emeka Egbuka, I think you have to take his number. His number was pretty low. I think it was 65.5. Just a target monster so far this season. 7, 8, 5, 10, 10 in the games they played so far. It's gone over in every game but one, and that was that blowout. Now, I think that's just something you can think about.
So Egbuka's over, what is that, 65.5 receiving yards?
65.5 receiving yards.
So one thing I'll push back on one thing you said. You said we're talking about the Oregon's run defense, and I will say, other than the Genty game, and I honestly think that he just like defies shit. They're putting 8 in the box, and no one can stop.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't really know what's going on with that. But I think Oregon defensively has looked like a different team in the last 3 weeks. I'm not going to argue that Ohio State has looked better. They have. And by the way, Jada, thank you for the super chat there. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the support, man.
And that was no. And when I read out those statistics, that was no knock on Oregon's rush defense. Like, I'm not saying they're a bad run D by any chance. I would say between the two, like if that's the weakest point of their game, it fits into the game plan of Ohio State's more than if they were, strong against the run, weak against the pass. Because I think Ohio State would prefer to run the ball than throw the ball a ton.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I don't fully trust Will Howard, so I would agree that they want to run the ball.
I mean, imagine if this game comes down, Ohio State's down by 14 points because of some fluke plays. I think Oregon's just able to lean on him because Will Howard, I don't think, is the guy who's going to mount a 14-point comeback and still have to go toe-to-toe with a guy like Dylan Gabriel.
Exactly. Agreed. So, yeah, all right. What do you, Scoop?
Yeah, I would just started looking at this game today, so I don't have much, but I'd take the 3.5 at Oregon too. Like you said, a lot of overreaction, sure, but
Scoop, you said you didn't want to be on for the. I'm sorry.
I started looking at these games today anyway.
Okay.
I mean, it's a lot of parity this year, more than even overreactions. So obviously, Ohio State is great on all three phases of their team. And like Kyle said, really about the same thing I said with LSU. You're giving me more than a field goal at home here. It's hard. I mean, like Mr. BLT said, Ohio State money line is more of a comfortable bet too, because I just can't give 3.5 to Oregon. I know Ohio State's loaded with talent, but I think Jordan James is even better than any Ohio State receiver. I love him playing football. Plus, Oregon's 18th in passing yards allowed, and I like Ohio State's defense a lot more than their offense. So, being home is going to be huge for Oregon. It's a crazy stadium to be in. It's hard. It's one of the hardest places to play. I know, will this hurt their playoff chances on either side if they lose? Probably not, since there's 12 teams. But yeah, as of now, I would lean Oregon getting the points.
Fillmore?
Fillmore is going to be on Oregon as well.
Let's go, Dogs.
I got to give Dan Lanning credit. You did say he doesn't know how to win the big game. He's pretty good at it at home. He's 5-1 against ranked teams at home at Oregon. The one loss was to Washington a few years ago. It was a 37-34 loss at home. So scored 34 points. So they are a pretty decent team at home with him. I just think, like I said, at home, overall, I don't know how good Ohio State is because I'll be honest, they haven't played a team I'm worth looking at. Now, Oregon hasn't necessarily either, but we've seen their flaw, right? Their one game where they looked like, to me, they looked terrible. Worse than the Idaho game was the Boise State game because, like, Ashton Genty was running all over him. Well, now Ashton Genty's running all over everybody. So, like, I don't take that game as anything either. So, basically, the first 2 weeks of the season, I wasn't even paying attention to Oregon. And then now, they're blowing everybody out. I mean, they both of these teams play Michigan State the last 2 weeks. They both got thrown all over a pretty decent amount. Aiden Childs is just really good. Nothing you can do about that. But, I mean, both of these teams' offense are great. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored. I think the over could be a good look. But I just think at home, more than a field goal. I like Dan Lanning. I think this would be a huge win for their program. This would be big. And we're also seeing top teams are going down at a different level right now. And Ohio State kind of fits that bill more than Oregon. Another thing, and I said this to Kyle, and I think he laughed about it on Monday. Teams traveling 2 time zones in the Big Ten, they're 1-7 this year. The only win was Indiana at UCLA. We know how bad UCLA is, so like that kind of fits it. So like I know it's a stupid trend, but like that is something. They're 1-7, but
so teams traveling 2 time zones in the Big Ten are 1-7.
Yeah,
straight up.
That includes
how many of them were dogs?
Yeah.
Well, that includes USC went on the road to Minnesota. They lost.
They were favored.
What the Michigan just happened.
You're going to bring up the trend and not have the facts to back it up?
Yo, I was reading it the other day, but I didn't get to read the teams. But the main point of that is that doesn't include that doesn't include Ohio State, doesn't include Penn State yet. So, but yeah, USC Michigan? The other day was the team that I was like that kind of fit that the best. USC went to Minnesota and they didn't know what to do. Not saying that's going to be Ohio State. Ohio State's a better team, but it is true that traveling 2 time zones has been an issue for the Big Ten teams, not necessarily for the ACC teams, oddly enough, but it's been an issue. So I'm on Oregon. I like Oregon here. Call it a stupid trend all you want, but I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, and obviously the viewers are coming in heavy on Ohio State. That's going to be,
of course,
the heavily bet side in this one. All right, let's move on to the next one, which is Kansas State, Colorado. I didn't do a video on this one yet. So what Brad does, he sends me a DM of the games that he wants to talk about, and he put this one in there, which obviously it's a huge game. Is it because you feel strongly about it? Because I think you got to lay with Kansas State, but clearly the market disagrees with me. I'm kind of calling not bullshit on the newly found Colorado defense because I did take the 14.5 with Colorado against UCF. So I'm not anti-Colorado, but I don't really think that game was Colorado showing us they can stop UCF's rushing attack. More so, it was UCF got down early and had to abandon the rushing attack. That was more my takeaway from that game. I don't think Colorado could stop Kansas State from running the ball. So, personally, this is the side I'm leaning on, but I'm all ears here because I don't have a bet down on this game.
Yeah, no. So, first and foremost, I want to address what you said about stopping the running game. I made a tweet earlier this week when I looked at DJ Giddens rushing prop set at 99.5. I said I thought that's too low, but it's been his highest number against a FBS opponent this season, but I still think it's too low. I'm not on that. I actually just wanted to talk about this player prop because I think the number's probably going to move before game time, and it's our friend Mr. Shadur Sanders, 300 plus passing yards. First, I love them being at home. Weather checks out really nice. If we want to talk about a team that throws the ball more than they run, it's Colorado. There's only one team in the country which I don't know actually. I should look that up. Who throws the ball more than they run the ball than this team right here. Shadur Sanders basically hit this number in every game except the two. One was that UCF game where they had a massive lead. I actually think Colorado's gonna be playing from a losing position for most of this game, which kind of helps that prop there. But even if we want to talk about one of the losses where he didn't hit the 300 mark, it was the game against UCF where he hit his player prop, which was 289.5. He threw for 290 yards, hit it by half the yard there. And I think this is a situation where against UCF, you saw they were running the ball with kind of some success, right? The front seven for Kansas State's pretty good. If I were to say the weakness for this Kansas State team would be in the secondary. So for me, I just felt like I really had to advocate for this position because it's one of my stronger plays here, where it's going to be a possible negative game script for most of the game. And they're going to be throwing the ball a ton. So you have to consider taking Shadur Sanders over here. From a spread perspective, I do think Kansas State has a chance to kind of run away with this, but I just don't know. I feel like with this Colorado team, they're going to be a big vibes team, right? They're going to be a team throughout the entire season where if things are going their way, they're going to be a successful team. If things are not going their way, they're going to get blown out because their team has yet to show that they can handle adversity. And so that kind of leads me off of anything over a field goal, but I just think Kansas State's just a much better team. And also I'm not crazy afraid of Avery Johnson. That's the reason why they've been getting the ball so much, because they take the ball out of the young kid's hands, give it to the guy who has been having a lot of success on the ground.
Yeah, I agree. As far as not fully trusting Avery Johnson, and I kind of like how Kansas State defensively might not be taken off guard or caught off guard here. They have played 3 teams in a row that were trying to throw the ball on him. Fafita, then Retzlaff's a beast on BYU, then Oklahoma State. So, but I mean, it's tough to argue with Colorado. I completely agree with what you said about them being a vibe team when things are going well.
Crazy.
I feel like they could beat anybody if things are going well, and if things are going poorly, they could lose to anybody. So the question is, Scoop, we know that you're a resident Coach Prime hater.
No, not even close to being true, but all right.
So has the newly found defense, have you come around on this Colorado team?
Yeah, obviously I love this Colorado team. Great coach, great defense. No, but really, actually, the last 2 games, they have been a great defense. I can't even say anything. You do know how much of an Avery Johnson fan I am. 6'6", 250 pounds, chiseled body, 8-pack, really cut. Yeah, I mean, listen, Colorado's been lucky on that Baylor game. They should be 3-2 entering this one. But, I mean, maybe this Colorado team is underrated. I think their offense is getting better. They're kind of switching up to a run game a little more than they have, which they should have been doing all along. It gives pressure off Shadur Sanders. Do I think Kansas State's a better team? Yeah, of course I do. Kansas State should win. The problem is Kansas State's one of the worst teams in giving up big plays, and they're kind of weak in the secondary. Look what happened when Kansas State went to BYU. They really struggled throughout that whole game. I don't know if Kansas State can handle a huge road environment again. The one thing about Colorado is, I mean, they did have a great defense against UCF, but then UCF just followed it up with losing 2 scores to Florida. So, I mean, I guess I would lean Colorado here and a 3.5.
Wow.
Just because I just don't see Kansas State going on the road and winning by more than 3. But yeah, I'm not sure yet. But good for Colorado. They've been playing a lot better.
Fillmore?
Yeah, they have been playing a lot better. I will give them credit on that. But I'm on Kansas State. One thing that would be against that would be, what do we know about Shadur, right? He takes sacks a lot because he's under pressure a lot. His pressure to sack it's a C+, so like it's pretty clear he's going down when he's getting pressured. But he's facing a team that's 125th in pass rush grade. So on paper, you look at that and you're like, oh, wow, so he's not going to be under much pressure, not going to be much of a rush against them. Well, they've faced 3 really good O-lines in a row. Arizona, BYU, and Oklahoma State. All those teams have pretty good O-lines. Colorado doesn't. So I do think they're going to get pressure on him because other than the pass rush grade, 31st in sack percentage, 8th in pressure percentage, they're not taking the quarterback down and they're not affecting it too much. I think they will. Shador's been proven he can be affected when it comes to being under pressure. So I don't think he's going to have like a light up game against this Kansas State team like Retzlaff did and Fafita did, or not Fafita, but Retzlaff did. Then on the other side, Avery Johnson scares me. He seems to make some dumb mistakes, like very dumb mistakes. But like Lord BLT said, I think they're just going to do anything they can to take the ball out of his hands. And has Colorado faced a rush attack like Kansas State? I don't think so. I know Central Florida, I think, like Kyle said, it was less about them not being able to get the run going, and they couldn't. They were already down 2 touchdowns in the blink of an eye, so I don't think they ever had that opportunity. I think Kansas State will have that opportunity. I know it's on the road, but we've seen Colorado play tight games at home. We saw it against North Dakota State. We saw it against Baylor, so I don't really get nervous about the home field advantage. So I think Kansas State will be good in this one, and I could see a touchdown to 10-point win here, but I don't think it'll be a blowout.
Next game. And last game, before we go start enjoying some playoff baseball, and this is the one that the comments hated me for. And I didn't even think it was like some super sharp, like contrarian pick at all. I like the bet. I bet it. I did. I was actually surprised to see the reactions. I thought that the action coming in would be pretty split on this one, but judging by, now I know the YouTube comments on my video aren't an accurate representation of the entire betting public. I understand that. But no question, the comments about this pick, they hated it. They like Penn State to absolutely rout USC. I'm on USC. I got in at plus 5.5. It kind of mirrors what I was just saying about the Oregon-Ohio State game. Really, it seems a little bit early to have moved the number on this one, to move the goalpost on this one, where at home, USC, I mean, now it's down to 4.5. When I bet it was 5.5. We're automatically saying Penn State's more than a touchdown better than USC. I mean, they haven't really played anybody yet. At the time that West Virginia victory looked really impressive, West Virginia's defense looks pretty terrible. So, I mean, for me, I didn't need proof that Penn State had a good defense. We knew that already. We've seen Penn State with an elite defense for years. That's not what we're looking to see. We're looking to see if the offense has improved under Kotelnicki, because in my opinion, that's what we need to see from Penn State to see them take the next step up. They're always like the little brother of Ohio State and Michigan, right? They're always like the next tier down of Big Ten teams. In order for them to step up this year and to be mentioned in the conversation with those top teams in the Big Ten, I need to see an offense. To me, that's what we needed to see from Penn State this year. And what are we decided that they have one because they lit up Kent State and Bowling Green at home? I haven't seen anything that leads me to believe this Penn State team has an offense. We've seen them beat up on bad teams before, and then in the big game, the defense shows up and the offense doesn't. So I'm not really they're going to have to show me that they could have a big offensive performance in a big game like this. Also, USC's defense severely, dramatically improved is probably the better word. Way better than it was last year. Miller Moss has some shaky moments, maybe not quite the Caleb Williams offense that we're used to seeing, but catching points like this at home. USC's going on the road to Minnesota, on the road to the Big House. USC's playing teams, huge Big Ten games, huge road games. Penn State sitting at home playing bad defenses. So the line's way off in my opinion. This shouldn't be anything higher than 3. So at 5.5, I was definitely on the Trojans. I know everyone's going to be on Penn State here. I'll be on my own little Trojan Island.
Not me, man. I agree. I think USC, so far, I think there's an interpretation that they can't play Big Ten football. And I mean, if you've watched them, kind of looks like it. They played about as Big Ten of a schedule as you could get. They went to the Big House. They couldn't do anything. They went to Minnesota, and I thought they were going to win that game by a pretty decent amount. They just didn't do anything. But now they're back home. And I'm not going to get too up on the travel. I know I said that trend, but again, I think that trend was just some fun there. But I do think Penn State going out to California, that's a weird thing for Penn State. They don't do that. That program doesn't go out to California unless it's for the Rose Bowl. So this is a weird spot for James Franklin, who, again, we know struggles winning big games. And I don't mean it as like hate against him. He can't do it. He loses 2 games every year. It's usually to Michigan and Ohio State. What's to say USC is not going to be the team that replaces Michigan? Because Michigan's a bad football team this year. But who's to say USC is not that team? You've got Lincoln Riley, I think, fighting for his job at this point, because I think this team is in very tough. They're in danger of losing their season at this point. They could be on their 3rd loss in 7 weeks, which is just what happened last year when he had Caleb Williams. So I think backs against the wall there. And I think it's a weird spot for Penn State. Like he said, they've been sitting at home, kind of playing with their food a little bit. They barely beat Bowling Green. They barely beat UCLA. I mean, not barely beat UCLA, but they didn't beat them as bad as we thought they would. So I think just the weird spot for Penn State gets it for me. I think it's going to be a weird football game, lower scoring than you might think. So I probably would think an under, but and USC's defense has improved, like he said as well. So I don't think that this is going to be as easy for Penn State as some people are making it out to be. On paper, they're way better, right? The roster's better. They're a better defense. They're probably a better offense slightly. But that spot matters. They're at home in USC. That's a weird game for Penn State. They don't do that. They don't want to do that. But it's just the way that this college football is right now. So purely the spot for me, USC.
Brad?
I actually do think there will be some more USC love coming in. I think this number will drop to the 4. I'm not playing a side on this one quite yet. I will want to be pro Penn State if I can, or you gobble up the points with USC. Miller Moss has proved that he's a guy, we said that word adversity, where if your team faces adversity early, he can come back, he can lead his team. He almost did it successfully against one of the best pass defenses in the country in Michigan, fell a little bit short. Did it against Wisconsin where their backs were against the ropes. I believe they were down like 20 plus at halftime. They came back and won that by more than 2 touchdowns. Saw a little adversity against LSU and still was really successful. We'll see how they bounce back. One bet that I do want to advocate is Katron Allen over 65.5 rushing yards. This number is pretty funny because it's going to stay pretty put. Like a lot of people talk about player props, you have to get him in fast, but Nick Singleton's going to be back for Penn State. I don't think Nick Singleton's going to carry the ball more than 10 times in this game. And even if he does, there are very few teams in the country that run the ball more than Penn State. Penn State want to run the ball with their double-headed backs, and there are very few teams who actually decide to throw the ball on USC. It's actually funny. USC's defense rush rate over expects 119th, which means their teams are more likely to run the ball on USC than they are to throw the ball. Katron Allen hit this in back-to-back games, hit it in 3 out of 4, and he will be the lead back running against a team that's in like close to the bottom third in rush defense so far this season. You know, you said something that I want to kind of like highlight. You know, is USC quite ready for Big Ten football? The smash mouth, run the ball between the tackles football. You have to get in there and get ready on defense. I don't know the answer to that yet, right? Like Darius Taylor ran the ball for 144 yards and Cleo Mullings ran it for 150 plus, but it wasn't that like they weren't playing well on the ground. It was 1 or 2 missed tackles that led to really big numbers. So from a game perspective, I don't know if that's an accurate statement. That a lot of people are going to say that, but from a player prop perspective, yeah, go ahead and miss those tackles at the second level, because I do think defensively, schematically, they're improving. But once they clean up those missed tackles, they might be a year or 2 away from being really competitive to play that Big Ten smash mouth football. It's still a work in progress, but I think you have to, advocate for Katron Allen to go over his number. I think he's closer to be like 75 in this game, and it's only 65.5. USC's definitely live. I think USC's live at home. Miller Moss. I did see something where USC was like basically telling their fans like, we know you have better things to do, but come to the game. Like that's, I don't think that's very good in a big game for the season.
I mean,
I see. Okay, so I understand the narrative that you and Andy both mentioned it, and I get it. Everyone's like, oh, USC's not ready for this smash mouth football and all that.
Anyway, I said I don't know if I agree with that.
No. I'm saying you mentioned the narrative. I wasn't saying that you guys, because Andy kind of said he doesn't know.
Oh, I don't agree with it either. Yeah.
So I was just mentioning the narrative that you guys also mentioned. So I know everyone's saying that, right? couldn't you also say the same thing about Penn State on the road on the West Coast? I mean, when have we ever seen Penn State against one of these high-flying West Coast passing attacks? I mean, they play Big Ten schedule, and whenever they play a Big Ten team that can throw the ball, pretty much only Ohio State, they get their asses beat. So, like, the idea that Penn State's completely ready to go out there on the West Coast against these superstar NFL quarterbacks, you can make that same argument, because every time we see Penn State like in these games against these teams, they don't show up. So I feel like you can make the same argument on that side as well. I like Miller Moss to play well. I do.
Yeah,
So.
I like him to play well. I actually think these numbers are kind of fugazi, right? The Penn State defensive drop back numbers are kind of fugazi, right? Like who's the drop back? Like the best passing quarterback they played was Luke Altmaier, who averages like 225 pass yards per game. I might have shortchanged him. I think it's closer to 250, but still, like, that's not like an elite passing attack. He's efficient, but not elite. So some of the numbers could be kind of skewed.
Exactly. Agreed. Yeah. And I think this one and the Oregon game specifically, I think are going to be games we look back at and say, like, I can't believe USC was catching 5.5 points at home from Penn State. And Oregon, I think as well. I think Oregon, as the season rolls on, with Ohio State would be closer to a pick 'em when we get down close to playoff time. So it's like, I can't believe we're catching one of the field goal at home. I think that
one of these two teams is losing.
That's
how the college football game season's going.
Scoop, what do you like?
Yeah, I actually just texted my cousin who's a coach at Penn State, so I'll circle back. No, but actually, no. Everybody's on Penn State. They saw the Minnesota game with USC and saw, USC just isn't that good.
A lot of points.
The issue is with USC is they're the most traveled team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
That's what happens in the Big Ten now, so you're just going all over the place. Penn State hasn't been on the road since week 1. And they played an hour away in West Virginia. You saw that Minnesota game, but you saw Penn State too, right? I mean, UCLA traveled across country. They didn't look great against them. Drew Aller looks okay. He's not a huge passer. He takes care of the ball, but can the Trojans slow down Penn State's rushing attack? I guess is the big thing. USC ranks 17th in the Big Ten in run defense, and I know Penn State's going to have Singleton back. I actually go the other way too. I think Singleton under might be a good rushing yards to go for too, since it's his first game back. I think it's about 50 now. I mean, listen, I think this cross-country thing, like Andy said, it's going to come into play. And like Kyle said, this defense has improved. On paper, the Penn State should, they're built to win this game. They have a stronger defensive line, and obviously they have the better rushing attack. But look at their margins of victory too. They're concerning. Plus, UCLA had 2.8 yards a carry. Penn State had 2.8 yards a carry against
UCLA.
Stopping Penn State, stopping them. So, and Illinois was a one-score game in the fourth. Bowling Green, they won beat by 7. So, I don't think this team's really been tested yet. And this USC defense, they're down in conversion rate. They lead the nation in EPA per play and success rate on passing down. So, Penn State can run all they want. I think they're going to stay in this game. 5.5 at home to Penn State going across country. I just don't see it. So I'm going to take USC too.
Let's do it. Trojans up. All right.
Dangerous.
So that's the last game. Oh, community parlay now. I mean, it's only baseball games and it's now. So everyone.
Football games.
Yeah, you know what? Let's do a community top bet for the football games. How about that?
Okay.
Actually, there's an NFL game too.
So we'll do a community top bet. Go ahead and end that poll, and we'll do we'll do the 3 college games and an NFL game, and we'll see what the community his favorite bet is. So they like James Madison. I know that. So put James Madison -8. Did UTEP win that poll? Yeah, put UTEP +20. I think maybe they probably were tailing me, but a lot of people clicked UTEP in that one. And Middle Tennessee +4.5. And then put 40. They definitely like the 49ers. 49ers -3.5. So we'll see what the community's favorite football bet is tonight. How about that? The community top bet has been killing the MLB playoffs. I don't think they've lost one yet. They took the Tigers 3 times, have won every single time, and then they took the Mets the 1 time. So I'm pretty sure the community top bet is undefeated in the MLB playoffs. So we'll see what they could do today. Oh, by the way, while you're voting, Brad, you want to tell the fine people, in case they don't know who you are, where they can find your stuff?
Absolutely. You guys can find me on X at Mr. Brad Thomas. Also, make sure wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, go check out Bet the Edge. It's an NBC Sports podcast. Every Thursday, we give out our college football action.
So that's NBC Sports Podcast every Thursday morning, right? Cool. All right. So the community, is that James Madison I see, Prop Beaver?
I believe so.
Community top bet is James Madison -8. I kind of lead the other way on that one, but I didn't bet it or anything, so I'm not directly against the community. So the community's top bet today, James Madison -8. Thanks, everyone. Community top bet going for 5 in a row here. So thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time. We'll be uploading some videos tonight if you want to check them out.